Teens, you can be dismissed. And if you have your Bibles, just go ahead and flip on over to Colossians chapter 3. Colossians chapter 3, we're talking about the view from plates tonight. It's an interesting title, and we'll catch up to it here in a minute, and we'll understand what it is a little bit better, because I know it seems pretty obscure at the moment. But we're going to jump right into it as soon as they get out of here, and we'll go to Colossians chapter 3. And I think we're going to get somewhere if we'll jump in tonight. You ready, Joel? I think I'm ready. Colossians chapter 3, starting with verse 1. Since you have been raised to new life with Christ, set your sights on the realities of heaven, where Christ sits in the place of honor at God's right hand. Think about the things of heaven, not the things of earth. For you died to this life, and your real life is hidden with Christ in God. And when Christ, who is your life, is revealed to the whole world, you will share in all His glory. Just stay where you're at, because we're going to keep going through Colossians here. But Paul tells us, and he tells the Colossians here, to set their sights on the realities of heaven, where Christ sits in the place of honor at God's right hand. In other words, he's saying it's time to shift your focus. It's time to shift your focus. And when you shift your focus, what happens is you can alter your reality. And I know that sounds a little crazy to say, I haven't shifted my focus. How's it going to alter my reality? Well, what I mean by this is problems will become smaller when we begin to grasp the magnitude of God. Like when we see someone who is above and sitting on the thrones of heaven, our problems here look awful small. When we think of sickness and we think of our hands, we're in the hands of a creator God who very well, if He built it in the beginning, He can rebuild it again. And when we think about that, it alters our reality. So when we truly believe He is for us, guess what? It'll change our perspective about how we've seen ourselves. And it'll change where you're aiming when you think about the things of heaven and not the things of earth. And then he says something that I don't think many people even grasp. He says, for you died to this life, and your real life is hidden with Christ in God. I don't think many people are truly dying to their old self and taking on the image of Christ, believing that He's inside of them. I don't think that's happening, because when I see people praying, and I see people praying at the altar. I even see some people crying at the altar. But then I see people returning back to the behavior that got them there in the first place. And I don't necessarily blame those people, other than the fact that they're not understanding the reality that the old person died. Just like when we do baptism, you're buried with Him in the grave so that you can be raised to Him in new life. So we're not burying that old self and believing that we have new identity in Christ. And so he says something that I just don't think that we grasp when he says, for you died to this life. I don't think people are truly dying. They come to an altar, they say a prayer, and then they walk away with no change. And so I say, why is this? It's because we're not willing to part with our behavior with that we've always been entertained by. So what is this call to die? We're not willing to part with that behavior that's been our entertainment. All right, let's go a little further. Colossians 3:5. So put to death, all right, the sinful, earthly things lurking within you, and have nothing to do with sexual immorality, impurity, lust, and evil desires. And don't be greedy, for a greedy person is an idolater, worshiping the things of this world. Because of these sins, the anger of God is coming. Now that verse 6 you might want to highlight, because I feel like it's something we ought to remember. Because it's saying, hey, you're supposed to put to death the sinful earthly things that are lurking within you, and you're supposed to have nothing to do with the sexual immorality. You're supposed to have nothing to do with impurity, lust, and evil desires. Because of these sins, the anger of God is coming. If the anger of God is coming, I think I need to highlight that. I think I need to know why the anger of God is coming. And then verse 7, you used to do these things when your life was still part of the world. Look, used to do it. Used to do it. That's what I was talking about. We're dying to this life so that we can live this new life in Christ. Christ is in us. But we used to do these things when your life was still part of this world. But now it's the time to get rid of, I'm about to trip myself there. But now it's the time to get rid of anger, rage, malicious behavior, slander, dirty language. Don't lie to each other. For you have stripped off your old sinful nature and all its wicked deeds. And now look at this, put on your new nature. And this is where I think the people are not doing. They're coming to the altar. They're saying they're sorry for what they've done. But they're not taking on that new identity in Christ. And then they're not getting up and putting on a new nature and being renewed as you learn to what? Know your Creator and become like Him. Well, how are you going to know Him if you're not spending time with Him? It's like you're not going to know your mate if you're not spending time with them. How do you plan to know the Lord? How do you plan to understand your new nature if you're not spending time with Him? And how do you expect to put to death your sinful nature if you're still taking part of it and you're not putting on your new nature in Christ? All right. In this new life, it doesn't matter if you're a Jew or a Gentile, circumcised or uncircumcised, barbaric, uncivilized, slave or free. Christ is in all that matters, and He lives in all of us. You know what? We should leave the altar with a hunger to know God. The hunger should drive us to build a relationship with Jesus through prayer and reading the Bible. And you say, well, how does that happen? Well, you know what? Those relationships can happen naturally. I mean, there was a point where you looked at your mate and you said, I want to know them, and I am enthralled by them. I am moved by them. I think it's the same way with Christ. When we see Him and we start to see Him as He really is, we have a hunger to know Him, so we want to spend time with Him. And so that's why it calls us to pray, because prayer is what? Communication with God, and read the Bible. That's taking in the Word of God that He's already spoken. And that's why Paul says for us to put on a new nature and be renewed as you learn to know your Creator and become like Him. When you got married, you didn't know how to be a spouse. Trust me, I was 19. I just turned 20 when we got married. April was still 19. I didn't know how to be a husband. I knew I loved April. I knew that I cared about her. I knew what my commitment was to her, but I didn't know. It came through time, spending time with her. And as I spent time with her, I learned how to be a husband. And there's supposed to be this pursuit to know the Lord. And this is not a life that's only for goody-goodies, as it says right there. It's for anyone. But it's not for just the cleaned up. It's not for those who have it figured out. But instead, it's a life that says, come as you are. So you come to Jesus with all of your junk. But then as you get to know Him, and then as you spend time with Him, you become like Him. And you start asking yourself those questions in the behavior that you do every day. What would Jesus do? And I know for people like me, children of the 90s, we think of the little black bracelets with the WWJD on it. What would Jesus do? And that's a little funny to us and a little sentimental to us. But the reality of it is it does make us stop and ask the question, when we're behaving like we're behaving, is this what Jesus would do? Maybe we ought to go back to that bracelet. Maybe if we put that bracelet on, we would at least have to think about it when we took that bracelet off. It would be a reminder that kept His presence in front of us, that before we started to say some garbage out of our mouth, we looked at our wrist and we said, whoa, what would Jesus do? I don't think that movement was that far off. And so you have to start asking yourself, what would Jesus do? And since God chose you to be His holy people He loves, you must clothe yourself with tender-hearted mercy, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Make allowance for each other's faults and forgive anyone who offends you. Remember that the Lord forgave you, so you got to forgive others. And above all, clothe yourself with love, which binds us all together in perfect harmony. And let the peace that comes from Christ rule in your hearts. For as members of one body, you are called to live in peace and always be thankful. So we're supposed to allow Christ to work in you because now He lives in you. And you know what? That gives you the power to overcome your past behavior. We can't do it on our own. We understand that. We understand that oftentimes we don't have the willpower to make it happen. But that's why the Holy Spirit comes inside of us, because what have I told you in the past? The greatest gift that the Holy Spirit gives us is it empowers us to live holy lives. There's some of you in here, you say, if you knew how I used to talk, you would see what God has done in my life. If you would have seen the things that I used to do, the things that I used to partake in, the people that I used to run around with, you would realize that the Holy Spirit has worked in my life and He's carving away the things that don't look like Christ. See, when we accepted Christ into our life, it's because the Holy Spirit was inviting us to know God. And it says God chose you and wanted to know you. Look back. Since God chose you, To be these holy people to be the holy people that he loves, you must clothe yourself with tenderhearted mercy, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. And then it says because of this Christ that's living in us, we're making allowance for each other's faults. We're not picking apart everybody. We're actually saying, you know what, I give you grace because I understand that you're going to make mistakes just like I am. And above all, we're going to clothe ourselves with love, which binds us all together in perfect harmony. It tells us we clothe ourselves. So imagine if you're clothed. If you're clothed with something, then when somebody walks up to you, they see it, just like I'm clothed in this shirt tonight. And everybody says, well, Matt is clothed in a black shirt. Well, if you're clothed in love, guess what? When I'm in relationship with you, when I talk to you, when I'm in communication with you, guess what I see? I see the love of Christ. And when I don't, guess what? I'm not clothed in love. If you're out there browbeating everybody and talking down to everybody and being ugly to people, guess what? It probably doesn't look like you're clothed in love. And this here, it says that we're supposed to clothe ourselves in that. In other words, I think of it like wrapping a blanket around us. That it affects those that are near us. And then verse 16 goes on and it even says, let the message of Christ and all its richness fill your lives. Teach and counsel each other with all the wisdom he gives. Sing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs to God with thankful hearts. So we're called to reach those around us. And we're called to encourage those around us. Wes, not only do you have a full-time job where you are called to do that and you're called to encourage all those around you, but you have a house full of boys who are looking to you. And guess what you're called to do? You're called to encourage them. You're called to counsel them. Too many times what we do, we focus on the things that don't matter as much, and we get inner focused and forget our outer purpose. And this happens in church often. I got a little something I want to do tonight. Jamie, come up here. I want you to help me. And Joel and Kay Drew and Blair, you can come over too. All right. It's real complicated tonight. I've got this great plate here. Stand around this plate. Kay Drew, you get right here where I am. Jamie on this side, just all four. And I'm going to lay some things on this plate here. All right. And I don't want y'all focusing on anything else. I just want y'all to focus on this plate here. All right. So we've got some things here. All right. Their focus is on what? Their focus is on the plate. All their focus is toward the middle. Pick up one of those, Jamie, and read it off to me there. If you could read my writing.
What others have, what I don't have.
What others have and what I don't have. When you're inner focused, and that's what they are, they're focused on the plate. He's thinking about what others have, and so what's that automatically do? What he doesn't have. And how many of us are guilty of that? Saying, oh, look, Cater's got a super nice truck, and I'm just over here driving my car. Man. And then somebody's looking at my car, and they're going, man, Matt's got a really nice car, but look, I'm just over here driving this thing. And then somebody's looking at that person going, hey, I just got a bicycle. Okay, all right. Here, look at that one. Read that one.
I need money, money, money.
I need money, money, money. Anybody ever feel like that? You go, that's me. I mean, I'm so focused and all I'm thinking about is I've got to have money. And what's enough money? I don't know, a little bit more. Because if I get to one level, then I want to get to the next level. And so my focus is on that. All right, read that one. That's the latest, by the way. I know that word looks a little funny there. All right, say it. The latest gossip. Have you ever been in a situation where you're all focused in and you're just talking about, oh, what's the latest thing? Did you know this, Jamie? Did you know this, Blair? Did you know this? How about this one? Read this one for me, Kay Drew. What's it say? Tearing the carpet.
Tearing the carpet, chipping the paint.
Tearing the carpet and chipping the paint. I've literally been in church before where we were walking around and people were getting so upset because guess what? The new carpet's got a tear in it. Well, you know what that means? It means it had traffic by it. It means that people were walking through it. It means people were doing things. Or I've had people that say, oh, can you believe the new paint's chipped? Hey, guess what? Get the new paintbrush and cover it up. Let's do this thing again. See, I can't be so focused. And then read this one, last one for me.
I just want to be happy.
I just want to be happy. Isn't that a lot of people? This is us. We're consumed with this. This is our life. And we're saying we're focused on the plate. All right, keep all y'all's attention on this right here. Keep looking at just the plate. What color shirt does Christian Crow have on? Blue. See, you're not right. All right. Joel, what color shirt does Mike McLeod have on? No idea. Okay, Drew, I even want to ask you about your wife just to see if you know, but I'm not going to.
It's blue.
Blair, what color shirt does Jim Cox have on?
Probably red.
It isn't. It's, okay, now turn this way. Focus this way. Now turn this way. Turn this way. Well, you turn and look that way. Okay, turn and look this way. Now, if I ask you and I said, what kind of shirt does Christian have on? You'd tell me what? What's he got on? Black. Black. What does Jim have on? Gray. What does my dad have on over here? What does Mike have on? They have blue. Dad has on plaid. See what I see? Now, I'm not inner focused. I'm outer focused. Now the things in the church, all these things, see, these are all the things that's happening. This is happening in your life. This is happening in the church. All these things, they're plate things. But when I've got my back to them, I'm not thinking about those things. Why? Because there's greater purpose out here. There's greater purpose. Too many times what church is and what lives want to do, we want to focus on these own little things that's got going on here. When God wants us focused out here. And guess what? The little things like the tears in the carpet, guess what? It don't matter anymore when you think about somebody's dying and going to hell. All right, guys, you can sit down. See, that's what I'm talking about. We're talking about a focus from plates tonight. How when everyone focuses inside, they see the smallest imperfections and they find the quickest offenses. It's real easy when you're sitting there looking at that plate and you could go, well, that plate's got a crack in it. It's just like there's a tear in this carpet. Oh, their shirt's not tucked in. Oh, they were holding hands in church. Oh, they got all this going on. Oh, the offering wasn't enough today. Oh, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And the whole time that we're focused on that, people are dying and going to hell. It's these quick, it's so easy and so quick to get offended when you're like that too, because everybody's under the microscope. I mean, I could ask you guys anything about that plate and y'all could have told me something about it. Why? Because everybody's focusing on this little thing. But isn't it so much better when you turn your back to that plate and you say, oh God, show me something. And all of a sudden he says, there. And notice how much more clarity there was when you turned your back to the plate. It was like, man, I know Christian now. I can see him now. I know Mike now. I know what's going on with Jim now. I see what's going on with them. Why? Because I'm not so focused on so much what's happening here. I'm focused on what's happening here. Imagine if you just turned your back around in the plates in your life, when you face outward, your focus is on the needs of others and the small things are behind you and you focus on the greater goal. Outer focus eliminates and negates inner struggle. Outer focus eliminates and negates inner struggle. Let me give an example of this. Count your blessings. Count your blessings. If you don't count your blessings, then you'll go, oh, well, I don't have this and I don't have that, and oh, it's me, whoa, oh, and I don't make as much as I would like to at my job, and they don't even like me up there. And then, when you get to thinking, you go, man, this guy over here didn't even have a job. This person over here is struggling just to breathe every day. They're on oxygen every day. And this person over here, man, their kids are going through so much right now, and my kids are at home at night, and I tuck them into bed, and I pray with them, and counting your blessings eliminates the inner struggle. Paul's focus was on the Colossians, and he was telling them, he said, hey, fix your eyes on the things of heaven, not on earth. Earth is the middle of the plate. When you focus on it, you get caught up in all the stresses and anxieties of life. You get distracted from the purpose of your new life in Christ. Heaven is when you turn your back to the middle of the plate. Now the horizon is so much broader, and now things seem so much more alive. Like we talked about Sunday, it's like if I'm focused here, this is my 70 years. If I get that, maybe 80 years, who knows, maybe 50 years. I don't know what I'm going to get, but this is all of that, and this is that whole life. But when I turn my back to it, this is heaven, and I realize 1,000 years from now, that's where I'm going to be. Now, this doesn't seem as important, like I said, unless you make the wrong decision while you're here, and that's to not follow Christ. So, earth, the anxieties of life, the struggles of life, the things that I'm dealing with, they're all small in comparison to eternity. And when we sit stagnant, many times what happens is we can begin to compare ourselves to others. And when we compare ourselves to others, what it does is, number one, it takes away your individuality. If I say, man, I'm not as tall as Joel, I'm not as tall, and God says, well, what if I wanted you to be small? What if I wanted you to be smaller than him? What if I've got a purpose and a plan for you that's out here? Like I heard this story one time about this girl, and she grew up, and all of her family was blue-eyed and blonde hair. So she was like, but she didn't have blue eyes and blonde hair. She had brown eyes and brown hair. And she stuck out everywhere they went. It almost looked like she was adopted. They were like, why? You always, and she was like, why do I have this, God? Why? I want to look like them. I want to look like my family. Their eyes are so pretty. Their eyes are so good. I love the way they look. And she grows up like that, and she's always wanting to be like that. And then something great happens in her life, and she starts seeing the Lord move in her life. And the next thing you know, she's on the mission field and she's doing things and she's serving the Lord. And then they need her to go and they need her to kind of disguise and go into this certain area. And guess what? Now she's brown-haired and brown-eyed. And she can go in there, but if she would have been blonde hair and blue-eyed, she would have stuck out like a sore thumb and she couldn't have been used for the purpose that God created her for. See, everything's not like what we think it is. If we sit stagnant, what we'll do, we'll compare ourselves and we'll weaken our individuality. We'll start looking at what other people have and complaining about what we don't have instead of counting the blessings that we do. Some of the most eye-opening things I've ever seen are people and testimonies of people who are just returning from mission trips. Like when Elijah come back from Belize, it was just like eye-opening for him. He'd say, "But Dad, they didn't have nothing up here, but they were so happy. I mean, we just ate rice and beans and some things, some stewed chicken. It was so good when we were there." Because in that moment, they're returning from an environment where they've been consumed by people who have so much less than they do. And somehow those people are happy and fulfilled. Or a lot of times they see what they have and what those people do not have, and they realize just how blessed they've been. See, it's hard when you've lived your life on the plate and you think the plate's all there is. And you think, oh, this is the experience of everybody. Everybody should have a nice car. Everybody should have nice clothes. Everybody should have a nice family. Everybody should get to pick 16 things they want to eat for dinner every night. And then they turn their back and they start looking at the world and they realize that they're in the richest percentage of the entire earth. We have America problems sometimes. Not saying that there's not problems here, because there are problems, and it's really sad what some people have to deal with. But a lot of times our problem is that our mindset is here when it needs to be here. When the mind is left free, it'll begin to focus on itself, and it will indulge in selfish behavior, thinking the greatest need is for its flesh to be satisfied. When it's left alone, it starts thinking about what it needs. Think about it, you're in a room, and there's really nothing going on, and it's like, man, I'm kind of hot. I wish they'd turn the thermostat down. Or, come to think of it, I'm kind of hungry. I need some food. Oh, I wonder what they got. I hope it's something that I like. Or then it gets something like, oh, I wish I had this, or I wish I had that, or why does this person have this and I don't have that? And what happens is when our mind is free and we let it roam like that, we begin to self-indulge and we become the center of the focus. We have to get our mind right. I say it often that you'll hit where you focus, or you'll hit where you aim. If our focus is lateral instead of vertical, you're not going to accomplish anything. At least for the kingdom of Christ, you're not. Here it starts with setting our mind above. We've been raised to new life with Christ, so we're to set our minds on the realities of heaven. We're called to put to death the sinful earthly things lurking within you. Look, it says that we shouldn't have these things in us any longer. What does it say? It says, you used to do these things. You used to do these things. You used to do these things when your life was still part of the world. But now it's time to get rid of anger, rage, malice, or malicious behavior, slander, and dirty language. I think it's a sign of lateral focus. And what I mean is, it's a sign of us having our minds consumed with the world when we start acting like the world. And you don't have to amen me, you can oh me. I don't know which one it'll be. But if you start watching a show And let's just say, I'm not saying that every show's bad, but there's some shows out there and the language is rough in them, and I could probably name a few, and you just start watching that, and that's what you're watching, and that's what you're consumed with. And then you're listening to some music. And not saying that any secular music is bad, but I'm just saying you're listening to some music, and it's saying some things that you don't normally agree with. And then all of a sudden, stuff starts pouring out of your mouth. Because you've got a lateral focus instead of a vertical focus. And our behavior shifts toward the things that we surround our lives with. Heavenly focus keeps our minds in our mind that we are the bride of Christ and that He is returning for His bride. And as Revelation 22 says oftentimes, even so I come quickly, or I will come in an instant. See, there is supposed to be a separation between us and the things of the world. Why? Because we're not supposed to be part of the world any longer. Look here, John 4:35. Do you not say, there are yet 4 months, then comes the harvest? Look, I tell you, lift up your eyes and see that the fields are white to harvest. Notice that Jesus is having to tell them to lift up their eyes because there is something occurring that they don't perceive. There's fields that are white with harvest. You would think that would be the obvious thing that sticks out. Hey, there's people out there that need to be saved. Hey, there's a field that's in bloom. Hey, there's things happening. And Jesus is having to say, no, you lift up your eyes. In other words, shift your focus from downward to upward and see what's actually going on. See, we can get caught up thinking about us four and no more and miss that we're called to a fallen world. And we become so inner focused that we miss our outer purpose. We start thinking about us. And it's easy. It's so easy to get with a friend or with a coworker or someone you're comfortable with and start talking about somebody else. And it might just be that you're the person that's there to reach that person and you're not taking it serious. And God has actually put you there as a missionary to the place that you work to spread His love to other people. But you're caught up over here and you're making fun of this and you're complaining about the boss and you're complaining about the workload when you might actually, if you would work hard, you might actually inspire people. And then they might say, what's different about you than everybody else? And you could say, it's the Christ in me. And it might actually make them want what's inside of you. See, the fields are white into harvest, but we're not aware of it because our heads are down and turned away. And here Jesus is saying what He's saying, lift up your eyes. It's a call to intentionally focus on what's ahead. Paul is telling the Colossians the same thing. He says, set your sights on the reality of heaven. Again, we see the problem that where our thoughts are aimed. And if I were to ask you tonight, I would say, well, where is your focus? I mean, if you're honest, are you in a situation right now in your life, in a season of your life, where all of your focus is on the plate, and it's been a long time since you thought of anybody else? Like you're so consumed with what's going on the plate and you may not even have done it on purpose, but you don't even realize that you're so consumed with what's happening here that you've forgotten that you can actually turn it here, and there's actually still things going on. I think that your focus will always determine your future. Your focus will determine your future. That's why if you focus on eating right, you'll get healthier. Because your focus will determine your future. If you set out at the beginning of this year and you said, I'm going to read through the Bible, and now at this point of the year, you're about 3/4 of the way through it, guess what? Your focus determined your future. And that's why you run to where you look, and you'll throw to where you're looking, even when you're trying to go in a different direction. I don't play golf, but I know if you lift up your head and you look off, guess what? The ball will go that way. It's the same way if you're swinging a bat, you won't hit the ball if you're off looking somewhere else and the ball comes by. I'm not great with either one of those, but I know the basics, okay? That you've got to be focused on where you're trying to hit. And I think it all comes back to what Paul's talking about here in Colossians 3. Put on your new nature and be renewed as you learn to know your Creator and become like Him. And if we're honest, and even if you don't want to be honest, you're hitting where you're aiming right now. And are you satisfied with where you're hitting? We are as close to Christ as we want to be. And we reach those around us with the same enthusiasm. So we're either sold out and we want to reach people for Christ because we love Christ and we want to be more like Him, and so we see ourselves going after them, or we're not that enthusiastic about Christ, and guess what? We're not that enthusiastic about others. We either have our focus on ourselves and we're like the people watching the inside of the plate, or we have our backs to the inside of the plate, and therefore we constantly find ourselves going after others. Many of you have said, I want to give my heart to Christ. But maybe you've never surrendered your life. See, there's a difference. Maybe you've never sought to know your Creator. You just know about Him. And you have to be intentional if you want to be like Him. Just a show of hands. Anybody ever played a sport? We won't even say what sport it is. You can come back later and tell me it was like badminton or something. I don't care. But anybody ever played a sport? Just raise your hand. You've played a sport. When you were a kid, and did you ever watch that, the pro version of that sport? Somebody say, yeah, I watched the pro version. All right, did you ever have an athlete that you said, I would like to be like that athlete? Maybe if it was basketball, you said, you changed the way you shot the ball because you saw that, like people watch Steph Curry, and so they see the way that he shoots the ball, and they change their behavior to be like Steph Curry. Or maybe it's a baseball player, and they watch how somebody swings, and they adjust their swing to be like them. You changed your swing so you could play baseball, or you changed your shots so you could hit more shots, but you studied the person so you could become more like them. Know your Creator and become like Him. Do you do that same studying with Christ? Or does your mouth say you're His, but your focus is on everything but Him? Because it's easy to get inner focused and forget you're made for an outer purpose. I think, and it's sad, because I think I have more of a reality of just maybe how short time is and how little of it sometimes you've got. And I probably still not have a grasp on, I may not live to 80. I may not live to 70. I may not live to 60. Who knows? I may not live to 50. And so thinking that I've got all of this time in the world, that I waste a bunch of time thinking about what's on the inside of the plate and forgetting that I was made to reach people outside of the plate. Now, I've got an inside of the plate focus sometimes too. I've got to reach my kids. I've got to reach my wife. I've got to reach my family. That is important, what's on there. But I can't get so consumed with me that I forget that God made me for them too. And there's people that walk through the doors of this church every Sunday, sometimes on Wednesdays, and we get one shot. And if we're not careful, we'll get so inner focused on saying hey to K. Drew or saying hey to Joel that I'll miss people, and they'll walk right out that back door and they'll never come again. And who knows if they'll ever give their life to the Lord. If I keep an inner focus, I'll miss my outer purpose. Let's stand tonight. Every head bowed and every eye closed. Somebody say, hey, that's me, Pastor. I haven't sought to know the Creator. I've said that I'm sorry for my sin. I've said that please forgive me for my sin. But then I've left and did what I wanted to do. Or you say, I've just been so consumed with what's going on in my little bubble that I've forsaken the world that's around me. And I'm walking past the people. I had a friend one time who told me, he said, man, Matt, when you are doing ministry and everything, walk slow through the crowd. Don't get so focused on getting to where you got to be and being at the places that you've got to be and getting to the stage or getting to your guitar that you walk past people. Because you never know what you're walking past. Tonight, I'm not going to open the altar really, but if you say, hey, Pastor, when you pray, remember me and my family.